Welcome. In this video, I'll show you how to configure cross-account access so that resources in one AWS account can be accessed from another AWS account. This diagram shows what I'll accomplish in this demonstration. First, I will create a resource that I want the other account to be able to access. In this example, the resource is an Amazon Simple Storage Service or Amazon S3 bucket with an object in it. Next, I'll define an AWS Identity and Access Management or IAM policy and an IAM role to attach the policy to. Then, in the other account, I'll define an inline IAM policy that allows the user to assume the role I defined in the first account. This will allow the user to access the S3 bucket. Okay, let's get started. In this browser, I am logged into the production account. Notice that the upper right corner of the AWS Management Console window shows who I'm logged in as. It also shows the account number of the AWS account that I'm authenticated to. So I'll first create a resource, in this case an S3 bucket. Notice I'm keeping public access blocked. I will accept all the default settings and create the bucket. Now, I'll add an object to the bucket. I'll just add a simple image file. I'm going to copy the bucket name because I'll need it in a moment. I'm going to create a second bucket as well. I want two buckets in the account so that later, when I grant access to one bucket, I can show that I'm not granting access to all of the buckets in this account. Next, I'll load the IAM console and create an IAM policy. The policy should grant access to all actions in Amazon S3. However, under Resources, I want to indicate a specific bucket. I choose Add ARN, and now I'll paste in the bucket name that I just copied a moment ago. This will grant access to the bucket, but I also want to allow access to the objects in the bucket. To do that, I'll choose Add ARN, and for the same bucket, I'll choose Any for the object name. Based on the input I provided, the wizard has built a JSON formatted policy document. The policy has two statements. In the first statement, the SID, which means statement ID, name value pair, has the value visual editor 0. This is an optional identifier. If you use one, it must be unique within the policy. Next, the effect is set to allow. Then, the policy has a list of specific S3 actions that this policy will allow. Finally, the policy allows the listed actions on any resource in the account, which is indicated by the asterisk. The second statement allows all S3 actions. However, it only allows them on two specific resources. The first resource is the bucket that I just created, and the second resource allows actions on any object in that bucket. I don't need any tags, but I do need to give this policy a name. I'll name it Cross-Account Access to S3 Bucket, and go ahead and create the policy. Great! Now I have an IAM policy. To use the policy, I need to associate it with an IAM principal, such as a role, user, or group. With the cross-account access objective in mind, I'll create an IAM role and attach the policy to that. After choosing Create Role, I need to specify the trusted entity. In this case, it's another AWS account. I need to know the account ID of the other account, the developer account. It just so happens that I'm already logged into that account. I'll copy the account ID, then paste it back here in the IAM role settings. Next, I'll attach the policy I just created. I can search for that policy. It was called Cross-Account Access to S3 Bucket. There it is. I don't need to add a tag, but I do need to give this role a name. I'm going to call it access to S3 bucket from dev account and then create it. Great, I'm making progress. I'm going to copy the new roles ARN because I'll need to use it in just a moment. I'm also going to copy the link that says link to switch roles in console. So far, everything I've configured has been in the production account. The production account trusts the development account to have access to a particular S3 bucket that exists in the production account. I did this by creating an IAM policy and attaching that to an IAM role in the production account. The role identifies the development account as a trusted principal. In the IAM policy, I also define the actions that users who switch to the access to S3 bucket from dev account role will be able to do. Okay, now I'm logged into the development account. I have not used this account in the demo other than to copy the account ID earlier. This development account has a user named AWS student who will try to access the S3 bucket that I created in the production account. So, what do I need to configure in this account? First, I need to create an IAM policy to allow the user to assume the role that I already defined in the other account. I'm going to use an inline policy, which means that it's added directly on the IAM user resource. I'll paste the JSON policy in here. This policy has an allow statement that allows the user to assume an IAM role. STS stands for the AWS Security Token Service, also called AWS STS. With this service, you can request temporary limited privilege credentials. Notice that the resource in this policy is the IAM role that I defined in the production AWS account. I need to replace prod-account-ID with the actual account ID. I'll paste the account ID into the policy details. I'm going to name the policy Access to S3 Bucket in Prod Account and create it. Now, I want to look at the Security Credentials tab. Notice the console sign-in link. I'll copy the URL so that I can test it. Now I'm ready to test the configuration. I need to log in as the AWS student IAM user, which is defined in the development account. I'll copy the console sign-in link into a new browser session. And I'll enter AWS student as the username and enter the password as well. Now I'm logged in as the AWS student user, and I can see that at the top of the screen. Next, I'll open the Amazon S3 console. Notice that there are no buckets. This is expected. That's because the AWS student user is logged into the development account. Remember, the S3 bucket that I want this user to be able to access exists in the production account. To see the bucket, I need to assume the role I created earlier in the production account. To assume the role, I choose the drop-down menu in the top right of the screen that shows who I'm logged in as, and select Switch Roles. Now, I'm prompted to enter the account number and the role name. I've copied the production account number, which I will paste in here. The role name was Access to S3 Bucket from Dev Account, so I'll fill that in as well. The display name is optional, but I'll set that to Dev Account User. Finally, I'll choose Switch Role. So now I've assumed the role. Notice the red label at the top of the console shows the account number I'm now connected to. And look at that. I can see the bucket that exists in the production account. I'm logged into the development account, but I can access a resource from the production account because I've temporarily assumed a role that allows the access. Let's see if I can access the image file in that bucket. Yes, and I'm able to access it and download it. Returning to the bucket list, notice the bucket in prod account no access bucket. The access column shows error. If I try to view the contents of this bucket, I see an insufficient permissions to list objects error. This is expected because of the permissions I granted in the IAM policy that's attached to the IAM role that I have assumed. Okay, I'm the AWS student user and I'm finished accessing the S3 bucket in the production account. I want to resume my regular access to resources in the development account. I choose the drop-down menu here and choose Switch Back. The account number displayed at the top is now again the dev account number. And when I go back to look at the buckets, no buckets display. This is because no buckets are defined in the development account. In summary, you have seen how to grant permissions to access resources created in one AWS account to use in another AWS account. You've also seen how a user in another account is able to switch roles and gain access to those resources. Thanks for watching this demonstration.